These videos are just going to keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming because the Titans, they just cannot stop requesting to interview head coaches. Welcome into Titans Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Brett Alper. And on today's show, they requested to interview 3 more coaches for their head coach vacancy job. The question that I have is, how many coaches are they going to interview? Look, I like them doing their due diligence and finding the perfect head coach for them. That is going to help develop Cam Ward. That is going to take the Titans back to at least playoff contention and hopefully make them a contender. But how many are you going to interview? If we go back a couple years ago, back to 2023, they only interviewed 10 total. Well, right now, when the NFL season ended on Sunday, it is now Thursday, they have requested to interview 11 more coaches. So, how many more are they going to do? Are they going to stop or are they going to keep going? Because there's guys like Jason Garrett on the list. But I'll ask you guys, because I'm starting to think this question. Are the Titans interviewing too many coaches? Like, if you're interviewing 15 different, how are you going to assess each and every single one in depth? Go down in the comments section and let me know. Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. Let's just go through 8 of the coaches that the Titans have requested to interview so far. We have the 2 Chiefs coordinators with Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnolo, Raheem Morris, Kevin Stefanski, Lou Anarumo, Jason Garrett, Vance Joseph, Kliff Kingsbury. I hope to see John Harbaugh on that list at some point. But if you saw, most of them are defensive coordinators. The Titans look like they want a defensive-minded head coach, which I find a little interesting. But here comes from Adam Schefter, and this is from this morning, that the Titans submitted an interview request for the next 3 head coaching candidates. Jeff Hafley, the Packers defensive coordinator, the 49ers defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, and the Steelers OC that we know all so very well, Arthur Smith. We're going to break all these head coaches down because that's what we've been doing on literally every single video, just breaking down what they are. So let's start with the Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. And this is going to the interview is not going to happen until next week because the Packers do have a playoff game ahead of them on Saturday night against the Chicago Bears. I'm actually extremely excited for this game. But here's his resume. Like, he was the head coach of Boston College from 2020 to 2023. Before that, he was with the NFL. And you can see he's only been the Packers defensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons. He's mainly focused on defensive backs. And I'll say that the Packers defense is solid. It's decent. You can see right here from the stats. They are top 12 in most of them except for rushing yards. But I do have to take into consideration on, guess what? You had, I was going to say Myles Garrett. You had Micah Parsons on the roster. And once he went down, the Packers defense went from here all the way to right here. So you have to take in consideration. I think Hafley would be a solid head coach in the NFL. He has the head coaching experience in college with being the helm of Boston College. But being just right back in the NFL, I think I'd like to see one more season to truly prove. From what I saw without Micah Parsons, the Packers defense has a little bit questioning if he truly has a grips on the defense. Give me one more year of him being a DC before I fully go ahead and make him a head coach of an NFL team. Coming up on the back half of the show, we're going to go through the rest of the 3. That includes Arthur Smith and Robert Saleh. But before we do that, I got to tell you about our sponsor of today's show, and that is Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. You know, Tennessee's not in the playoffs, but there's still other high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend. Elite hoops action every single night. The action never stops, and Prize Picks should take control. Look, they do something really nice over at Prize Picks. A max discount on Saturday's game. All Caleb Williams has to do is just throw one singular yard. That's it. And producer JD, that is an old Prize Picks lineup. That is from a couple weeks ago, so we do not need to go to that. But if you want to make a lineup, you can do it with football. You can do it with basketball. You can do it with hockey. It does not matter. Just make sure you add that max discount on there as soon as you possibly can so you can make money pretty easily. But you got to download the app today and use code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, let's take a look at Arthur Smith. And I will say, Arthur Smith, I considered he would probably be one of the top candidates next to Matt Nagy with the connections. He's been the Steelers' offensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons. He did take a year off with the Atlanta Falcons, or after the Atlanta Falcons, I think, as he was the head coach. And I'll admit, he wasn't that great of a head coach, but the big one is that he has spent 9 years with the Titans organization as an assistant when Mike Vrabel was here. And he has been through the coaching ranks, working his way up, and he worked his way up through the Titans organization. It would be a homecoming, and I think that the Titans would appreciate him coming here. But when he's with the Steelers, whenever I watch their offense, it's just a little questionable. But I will say this. It's with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old. You can't really do much with an immobile Aaron Rodgers because their plays, you can't really throw the ball deep because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the arm talent. So he is making plays just around him. Their offense doesn't really pop. And what do I mean by that? Well, I saw it with the Atlanta Falcons a couple years ago, and their offense really didn't pop either. There's nothing with Arthur Smith that speaks like, wow, big head coach. It's like, it's a safe hire, but is it really going to take you to the next level where you're going to truly be contenders in the NFL? I don't think so. Maybe I'll give him credit to having success with Rodgers, but overall, when Mike Tomlin goes 9-8 every single season, that's what you really expect. But then there's Robert Saleh. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for the Tennessee Titans to make this decision because I think Robert Saleh is an amazing head coach. I think that he would be the perfect man for the job of the Tennessee Titans if they were going with a defensive guy. If you've seen some of the things that he has done with the 49ers this season, it has been incredible. The Niners defense has been still very good despite injuries to Fred Warner, despite injuries to Nick Bosa. Of course, he was the Super Bowl 43 champion back when he was assistant with the Seattle Seahawks, but you could see that record right there. 20-36 record as the Jets head coach. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But Robert Saleh is a leader. He is a perfect culture guy. He would take the Titans to the promised land. And I think he'd be a great coach. And I saw what he did with the Niners before he went to the Jets and after he went to the Jets. Because the Niners defense, when he was there, was great. Then he left, became suspect, went back, and once again, the Niners defense is great. But you're probably asking questions like, Brett, what about the Jets? He was terrible with the Jets. You can't consider that. Look what he was as a head coach. It's the Jets, ladies and gentlemen. They were terrible. They're always going to be terrible. Look what Aaron Glenn is doing with the New York Jets right now. They're a bigger dumpster fire than every team in the NFL, and that includes the Tennessee Titans and the Las Vegas Raiders. And I will say when Robert Saleh was the head coach of the Jets, that defense was incredible. The problem was they threw all their coins at Aaron Rodgers, and he tore his Achilles, and he was done after that one. Their defense was great. Their offense, that was where it was suspect. They needed an offensive coordinator. And that's where this next point is coming up, because Robert Saleh would elevate the Titans defense. You pair a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, and then you get some players on the edge to pair with a guy like Femi Oladejo. You have it out in the safety position with Kevin Winston Jr. You would have a great defense. But then you need to get an offensive coordinator, obviously. And there's one offensive coordinator that I think everybody in the NFL is going to try to pair with Robert Saleh or pair with anybody of their offense to elevate their quarterback and their offense. And that's this guy right here, Mike McDaniel. Because guess what? The Miami Dolphins just decided to make a decision this morning. And I really wasn't expecting it because you don't really fire your head coach 4 days after the season ended. You kind of make that decision on Black Monday or Tuesday. But you can see from the tweet from 9:30 a.m. this morning. Dolphins fired head coach Mike McDaniel. Owner Stephen Ross met with McDaniel this week to discuss the season. After that meeting and reflection, Ross decided to move on and fire the head coach. Mike McDaniel is an amazing offensive genius. A genius. And if he's willing to be an offensive coordinator again, you give him a call up right after you hire their head coach. Hopefully, you find your head coach in the next week. But when you're interviewing 13 different head coaches, it's kind of hard to pick point within a week. But this should be the Titans' number one plan. Get Robert Saleh on this coaching staff and then immediately call up Mike McDaniel, because you get the perfect defensive guy for your team. You get a culture guy. You get a guy that people are going to respect and elevate this team, make them feel great about themselves, bring confidence like you can actually do something and maybe make it to the playoffs. And then you go out and get the offensive genius with the mastermind play calling that doesn't have to be that leader of men that we really didn't see in Miami in Mike McDaniel. This should be the Titans' number one plan going into the offseason. But if they interview more head coaches, it's just going to delay the inevitable, and you're not going to get some guy, and you're going to end up with Matt Nagy. That's just how it is. Grade a Salah-McDaniel coaching duo. Let me know down in the comments section what you guys think. Would you give it an A, B, C, D, or F? Now, this is all hypothetical, but that would be the number one option for the Tennessee Titans to go with. I'd give it an A+. If you could get that, well, the Titans, they'd be in a very, very, very good spot. We keep you up to date with everything Titans news, rumors, specifically with the head coach. And once the Titans find their head coach, we're going to start doing mock drafts on the channel. So you don't want to miss out. Hit that sub button right now. And as always, tighten up.